Right, nice to be back in the warm. Right, okay. Now we've got John Hanson, who was a very prolific writer and researcher and producer of a series of books called Haunted Skies. And today he's going to talk about something about the Welsh Triangle and a lot of other cases in Wales and elsewhere. Okay, so put your hands together for John.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I hate these bloody things. Right. Let's make a start. I think my problem is, because first of all I'm a retired policeman, and in 1995 when I retired from the West Midlands Force, my son Chris, and I have some images to show you shortly. No, it's okay, to show you shortly. He's now actually, I can't say his name. He's actually a They can hear me. All right, okay, thanks. My son Chris, he's now Detective Chief Inspector. He contacted me in January 1995 and he said, Dad, he said, you won't believe it, I've seen a UFO. So I said, well, I don't believe you, I thought he was winding me up. Anyway, subsequently he came to see me and he explained that on the 19th of January 1995 he was on duty with a policewoman and were directed to the scene of a UFO report, and he saw this this elliptical object hovering over some trees, and within a few minutes it had actually shrunk into itself and gone. And he was very clear about it. It had a blue aura, a field around it, with a rippling red line in the middle. And I thought to myself, surely these things cannot exist. They are figments of people's imagination, or maybe they've had too much to drink. So I contacted the local Birmingham Evening Mail and told them about this. And I think the article the next day read something like "Shooting Star Seen by Cops." Well, I do drift off at a tangent, so I hope you'll excuse me, because I have so much to talk to you about. And the fascinating thing is that I've looked through now files, newspaper accounts, going back to the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s. During the 1960s, there was an awful lot of UFO activity. There was a wave in 77, there was a wave in 67. The 67 wave was the Flying Cross, and I've interviewed most of the people involved with that. But, you know, the newspapers still suffer from the same problem now as they did then, is that they will, to some degree, faithfully report what those witnesses have seen, but they will flower it all up at the end or put something really taking the mickey. It doesn't matter whether they're police officers, pilots, they will take the mickey. So I suppose before I even start my talk, this is something that you should bear in mind, and it is ongoing to this present day. We have now, myself and my partner Dawn, who won't speak because she's frightened to death, aren't you? We've been doing this since 1996 because I was so interested in what my son had seen that I tracked down a number of other witnesses in Oxfordshire, Buckinghamshire, that had seen that object 3 or 4 minutes later. So that was moving at some speed. But it's all recorded, and over the years we've built up this massive collection of UFO archive material. And in 2010 we decided to publish our first book. Now this book was published, the way that we did it was to have to travel backwards and forwards to Devon to see our ex-publisher, who initially wanted to do it on the internet, but sadly couldn't cope with it, so we had to go backwards and forwards in all weathers for 2.5 years. I certainly won't mention the name of my ex-publisher, but suffice to say, after a problem between us and him over royalties, the books were taken off taken off Amazon for sale in late 2014. So we're going to have to revise the book. So let me just show you. This is our revised volume 1. That covers 1939 to 59. So there are actually cases long before that. The other book that we've published recently, I'll get this out of the way. You see, it's no good me. I try and write everything down that I can talk about. Then I see things and think, well, I've got to talk to you about that. So really, I'm a rubbish speaker, but I write bloody good books, Now, that was the whole book. We talked about nukes at Rendlesham. Now, that is 800 pages, 1,000 images, and that's done in conjunction with Colonel Charles Holt, who's now a personal friend of mine, and that was, well, he thinks it's his book actually, but it's his view of what happened at RAF Woodbridge Bentwaters, and also my take on a huge number of previously unpublished files from the late 1970s, 80s and into the 1990s, which happened around the Essex area. I don't know, have you heard of the Belgium Triangle?
Yes.
Right. Well, there was hundreds of cases involving identical objects seen over Essex during the years that I've mentioned, and not one newspaper was interested. Not one newspaper. Some years ago, I spoke to actually the guy's name is Michael Hellicar, a nice guy. I think he's still on the Mail. Well, he's been covering UFO reports back since the 1970s. He's probably even covered the one here. So I said, well, why is it we can't get any publicity? And he said it's because the books are too serious. He says they will not touch the books. In 2015, I was invited to go down to the Daily Mirror in London at my own expense, which I did. And I had an interview with a journalist. His name's in the book, I won't mention his name here. And we adjourned to a coffee house, and some things remain vividly clear in your mind. And it was a cup of black coffee and some very dark beer. And he interviewed me and he said, John, I'm telling you now, the editor says that when we publish the article, it'll be about crazy ex-cops, chasers, flying saucers. Never been published. We've never had anything published. But that hasn't stopped us. We've just got on with it. And over the years, we've met so many fantastic people at the door. I mean, people like Jesse. You know about Jesse Rostenberg? 1954. Right. Because I'm sure you can hear me, can't you? Yeah. Without that bloody thing there. Right, okay. Can you all hear me? Excellent. I'm sorry, you don't mind, do you? Is that a problem? Right. Well, that was the volume 1 of Haunted Skies. That was the first one we did. It was in black and white, and there are reports, for argument's sake, from the 1940s. There's one here, this gentleman here. This is a guy called John Warren of Butley, stationed at RAF Ludham in Norfolk. Met his wife, didn't meet him because he's passed away. That was what he saw. Can you all see the image of that sort of alien being? He saw that when he was on his way back to camp with another guy. There's, and I'll show you some images in a minute. There's a guy that George Bernard Dye from Ipswich, Suffolk. We interviewed him. He was on his way back from Germany in 1944 and in the Lancaster bomber. And they were plagued by these things, and we spoke to a lot of pilots. I did in fact contact the German embassy some years ago and asked them about Foo Fighters. And I said, have you any information? And the guy said, well, we don't keep such reports. And there's another chap. Now, bear in mind, these are now in colour in the revised volume. I suppose I should be looking at that. But this was a guy called Ronald Claridge. And that's what he saw in the Lancaster bomber. Again, you can have a look in a bit. But that was identical to what was seen in 1956 by a United States Air Force crew. I mean, the thing is that with Volume 1, the list goes on. But let's get down to some Welsh stuff, because Emlyn said to me, they have to have, he wants something with a Welsh feel. Now, first of all, I'm going to apologise to you, because I'm sure some of you are Welsh. My pronunciation of Welsh is sadly lacking, so I hope you won't admonish me too much. But Dawn's half Welsh, so you can blame it on her.
Thank you.
But yeah, this was a guy. Oh well, the Jessie Rostenberg case. That was fantastic. That was what Jessie. Again, we've got all these in colour. She's now 92 years of age. She lives in Stafford, and she was. I think this was the 21st of October, was it? 21st of October 1954, and she heard this noise like a cauldron of water coming from the sky. So she rushed out, and she was waiting for her kids to come home. And she saw this object hovering, dome-shaped object, hovering above the house, and inside were two occupants. And they looked down upon her in a compassionate manner. At that time, she was living in a place called Ranton Vicarage, which starts to give us some clues as we work through all this. A vicarage. And she saw this object, and then within a short time it left. Eventually, a gentleman living in Stafford actually saw it going over a couple of hours later. Jessie was examined by a doctor. And the doctor said, "You've got some problem with your blood," because he thought that she'd been exposed to some radiation. Of course, in a sense she had, because these things do give off an ultraviolet radiation. And the short and simple answer to these things is that, yeah, a lot of people that we spoke to have had experiences, and some of the ladies have alleged, it's very difficult to say about abduction. I cannot categorically predict when abduction takes place, but we'll show you an implant in a little bit and other things. But some people, when they get close to these objects, they can have some pretty frightening stuff happens to them. There's that picture, the ladies from Telford, remember that one? There were three ladies from Telford had a similar experience. But yeah, I mean, she's a lovely lady. We've got clips of film of her. And then somebody else that we interviewed was, anybody heard of Margaret Fry? Anybody? Yeah, Margaret Fry, lovely lady. We're personal friends with her. She's invited us up again soon. She's head of the Welsh Federation of Ufologists. She had a fantastic, spectacular sighting in 1955, July the 17th, I think, when she was on the way to the doctors, and this thing hovered over her. And so we went down, looked at the street, we tracked some witnesses down. Now there's two of the witnesses. Pass that round. They actually, Doris Jacks and Pam Rossiter, they saw that object the day before, because the girls that were at the local Beedon Welsh school came in and said, "Mummy, we've seen a UFO, we've seen a flying saucer." Rubbish, but they had. There were so many people at the school who'd seen that, and that was 1955. And then that's I'd say, don't tell Margaret Fry I've shown you that. Just a fascinating experience. I never get tired of talking to people about these things, and I am passionate about it because of course although I can't prove they are real. Certainly, sometimes people that are exposed to the energies given off them can have not only have life-changing things, they can also have all sorts of medical problems, and that sort of goes hand in hand. There's a guy that's a chap called Ray Brown. That's what happened to him. That's again off at another tangent. 1990, he saw this cigar-shaped object hovering over the site location where he worked, clearing houses, and he ended up with all these strange marks. And as he said to me, I didn't have them the day before, so again, I don't know. Anyway, let me just get on with this. So it's never ending. I mean, for me, the meat sandwich today is obviously what has happened here. and we will talk about that and the roles of people that were involved. Now that's the Mrs. Rostenberg of Vicarage Farm. That was from 1954, this, and you can see what she described there. Now, that was the chap that interviewed her, a guy called Wilf Daniels from Stafford, who passed away. I don't suppose anybody's ever heard of Gavin Gibbons, The Coming of the Saucers. Well, him and his brother Robin, they were very much interested in the UFO subject. We went to see Robin, because Gavin passed away some years ago. Gavin was very much one hell of an eccentric, but a bloody good researcher, and some of the cases that he came across were fascinating. Now here's a cited from 1967. This is, I will try not to save reading, I'll read the 77 stuff, because that's obviously more relevant. But we've got just after, before midnight on the 20th of July 67, Clive Menadue in Beach Road, Sunnybank, Pyle, South Wales. He saw something in the sky flashing red and white. He thought it was an atomic bomb detonator. And that's what that's one of his original illustrations. And I've got images to show as well. And that's the cottage, if you want to pass them round. So that's Clive Menadue. And of course people tried to tell him that it was, well, they tried to explain it in a way, in a number of ways. But that was fascinating. I mean, we've covered, as you can see from these books, we've covered anywhere and everywhere. We came down here in 2006, and you'll see a short clip of film with Billy and Pauline Coombs. I was only listening to a tape, an audio tape made with them by Phil Hoyle. Anybody heard of him? Yeah. He's not very well, Phil, is he? He's got problems with his legs. He's not managing to get out of the house. But he interviewed them years ago, and I hadn't realised last night that Pauline was talking about a pig that was mutilated at Riverstone Farm, and also she described, I mean, it makes me laugh about the figure at the back window. That window's so high, it could not have been a man. It could not have been, unless he's an 8-foot man. And even then, Pauline Coombs has said that the guy came forward and said that he was the hoax, he was dressed in a silver suit. But she said, well, why didn't he say what he saw when he looked through the window? Because he never bloody well did. He didn't look through the window because you know, what was there certainly wasn't a human being. And we've come across so many cases involving similar sighted occupants, and also bearing in mind that during 1977 and 78, there was so much activity, all over the country, but certainly there was a lot in the early part of the year around Wales. Interestingly enough, that in 1968, the Penthouse magazine, and I'm not sure, John, what sort of magazine is that? So I don't know what it is.
I think it's referred to as Gentleman's Special Interest.
No, one you
so I've heard.
No, it's fascinating is that in 1968 they conducted their own investigation into UFOs, and you know, they did quite a really good job. And what they summed up, they said that firstly, there is ample evidence to support the case for flying saucers. Secondly, the military and intelligence units of most of the world's governments are sufficiently concerned with this evidence to try and suppress all information related to it. Now, that hasn't changed. Thirdly, to uphold the public's right not only to the explicit knowledge that its government may be threatened, but to make all the emotional and intellectual preparation necessary should such a crisis arrive. If, as their avid supporters believe, UFOs are intelligently controlled spacecraft of extraterrestrial origin, then surely this is the greatest story of all time. Now, of course, the UFO subject, whether you're a skeptic or a believer, it is without doubt the greatest phenomena of all time, and you can't remove that from it at all. So, you know, I don't know how many of you have actually witnessed UFOs. On 3 occasions I've seen them. Some of them are bizarre and shouldn't really happen, but they did happen. I mean, that's how it is. And so nothing really changes. What I will say is that, you know, I've looked at the back here. When we came down last time, we were intrigued with the church. Is it still dilapidated, that church?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
it looks like they've had a new front door put on, so it might have actually been done.
Top, when we went down, the whole place was neglected, and it was in quite a state. And you know, when I look at all these reports, a lot of them will occur over, some people say ancient energy lines, some people say ancient sites, tumuli, barrows. I mean, we've just actually got a new book coming out, because we did spend a lot of time in Wiltshire, and so many sightings there of these entities, these beings, do occur over places like Silbury Hill, Avebury, Adam's Grave, Pusey Down, Stonehenge. So it makes you wonder, you know, if you could travel back into time and see what this country looked like all those years ago, you'd be shocked and you'd be stunned. And maybe there was an awful lot of UFO activity then, as there is now. So I just think that there is a link. I mean, people argue what the class is about, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or from the future, or from the past. I don't know, but the thing is, they've been here, in my opinion, because the evidence shows, they've been here for a long time. So they may not be what we think they are at all. I mean, I think they may not be beings per se, but you know, you talked about what you saw and what the other kids saw, and I'll show you the illustrations in a bit. And they, to me, they're identical. It doesn't matter whether you're an RAF pilot or whether you're a seasoned campaigner or whether you're an MP. What they see is exactly the same thing that you saw. And the occupants mostly are small, and a lot of people say they talk about the greys. Again, that's a human label on something we don't understand. But so many people have seen them, and some of them, unfortunately, are the worse off for having experience. But if you want to have let's have a look at pass it round. Pass this one round as well. Yeah. What, 3:15? Yeah, we're fine. Right, this is if I pass that round as well, this is a lady called Margaret Thingamybob, what's her name? No. Margaret Westwood, ex-police officer, used to live in Brum years ago. She ran the UFO Studies Investigation Service. And you mentioned Hans Holzner today, and of course she told me a lot about Hans Holzner. And Hans Holzner was to do with a guy called Petty Officer Penrose, who had an experience in 1954 in Staffordshire when his was one of the early abductions. Driving home, his car was picked up in the air and dropped on some rails, Burniston. And the guy that was involved in it was certainly investigating this Hans Holzner in the States. But yeah, that was interesting. We got a photograph of the car. But contrary to what a lot of people say, Penrose was not a commander. He was actually a chief petty officer. And we tracked down a lot of his colleagues on board because he served in the Second World War, and they actually more or less said he makes things up. So that's the sort of things that she investigated from Ufosis in Birmingham. That's just a sort of a few notes. Now, in those days, a lot of the documents were sent to Bufora, and Bufora, I suppose, you know, it's easy for me to say they lost things. Well, of course they did. They mislaid files, but from my own experience, and probably from yours, Emily, you know, over the years you accrue all of this paperwork and documents and files, and then, you know, it's easy to lose some of the stuff. It's terrible, because there's so much stuff, you see. Eh?
I'm losing stuff all the time.
I've been doing it 2 years.
Right, I've passed this one around. Right, that was the, those images up there are,
yeah.
That was a book we've just finished. That's called The Whole Perspective. And it's 800 pages, 1,000 images. Whatever Holt says is in red. Be careful you don't drop it on your feet. Right, that's volume 4, Born to Skies. Spoke to a police officer, Derek Davis, from Devon. He's on the page there. Oh, yeah. He was on duty the day a member of the public came in, a lorry driver, and reported what he'd seen. In fact, yeah, there you can have a look yourself. Well, I'll put the bits of paper in so you can see there are cases involving entities or certain, again, not dissimilar to what the kids saw. Images. Right, that's, chuck a few images, give me a break. That's my son Chris. I mean, as I explained before, the trouble is, I've seen people do PowerPoint presentations, and they do an image, and an image, and an image. We need a week for this. Do you know what I mean? We go through all this stuff. It's really impossible. I don't even show you the stones or the implant or the UFO matter yet. But yeah, that's my son and my granddaughter. Yeah, okay. Check it on then. Let's get some. That's me there. Yeah, I know. I've still got hair. Thank God. Yeah, that was what the sun saw. But we'll see a better image in a minute. Chuck it on. Right, that's what the sun saw.
Can you use the microphone, please? We're struggling to hear you back here.
Right, sorry.
Thank you.
You know what wouldn't last. Okay. Oh, I hate these things. Right, okay, thank you. That's what my son saw. Can that lady, was it a lady at the back? Oh, yeah, lady, yes, thank you. Right, that's what Chris saw. Chuck another one on. Right, that was volume 3. That relates to an object seen at 67 down in Moyne Downs, yeah, by an ex-RA. No, not RAF. BOAC steward, yeah, we chatted to him. But what the MOD said about that was that they wrote back to him and they said that it was some problem with your eyesight, you couldn't have seen that. And that was, don't forget, 67, year of the Flying Cross, October 67, we could read for an hour on what actually happened on one given day in 67. That's how prolific activity was. And of course, we had the pleasure of interviewing Police Constable Roger Wiley some years ago. He's since passed away. And the Chief Constable that he'd seen Venus. Well, clearly he had not seen Venus because we had something like about 50 sightings for that day. But next one, please. That's me. God, don't take the pee either. Right, chuck it on. They don't want to see too much. I don't want to see a sheep. No, not a sheep. Right, that's another one. Go on. We might as well look at that. God, that's me. Just chuck it on. Go on. Right, that's, we actually went down to Buckingham Palace. I'm not supposed to tell you, I suppose, but yeah, there is somebody that has the books office. They can't get a bloody comment off him because of course, Prince Philip has always been avidly interested in UFOs since the 1950s. And one guy, I've even got a clip of film, it was James Salandin. James Salandin had a sighting in 54, and while he was flying his vampire jet fighter, and he saw these three objects coming up over in the Essex area. and he reported it to a guy called Derek Dempster, who was his intelligence officer. Well, Derek Dempster then contacted Sir Henry Chinnery, who was Prince Philip's equerry, and Chinnery came out and interviewed them, and obviously Prince Philip heard about it in that manner. So, you know, when you're faced with this amount of evidence, clearly something is pretty well up, and always has been up, you know. Next. That's our image. Go on next, because I want to get to the Welsh stuff. That was a little alien in. Has anybody been to Nevada? No, don't bother. That isn't an alien, by the way. Is that a woman? I think that's the woman that runs it. Sorry. Go on. Right, go on. That is, sorry, if you go back, that is the only article I've ever had in 22 years. That is the, I think it was the, I'm just trying to remember what newspaper it was, a Telegraph or something. Never had nothing since. Go on, next. That was my sighting, but don't worry about that. Go on, next. That's 55. That was a guy in Bradford. There was a spate of activity in Bradford. This was a lorry driver and his son. I think his name was Suddard. Well, we spoke to his son, and there were illustrations taken at the time. So we had an illustrator provide us with that, and Mr. Suddard Jr. Confirmed that was more or less identical to what they'd seen. And there were also reports of UFOs landing in the area near the Bowling Green Lane or something. But okay, next. Oh, that's our dog. Sorry. Right, let's get on to Rendlesham Forest then before we get on to the Welsh stuff then as such. That was the sort of images that was taken down in Rendlesham. We spent many years down in Rendlesham Forest, and we've had quite a number of... Does anybody know what apports are? APPORTS. We've had apports of stones down there quite frequently. In fact, do you want to sort the stones out, Dawn? Just take the ones out with the A on. The ones with the A are the apports. And what happens there, we've been out in the forest with a group of people. The one with the A is the ports, the other ones are the control. And something has just whizzed by and fell next to us. And it is more or less too hot to touch. So you pick it up, it's hot, you drop it, and then it cools down. And we had a chemist analyse then the apports, and she said that they were identical to ordinary stones, but they're scrupulously clean. There's no fissures or age-related cracks in them. It's as if somebody's just made a stone. And so that was fascinating. But the images are spectacular. And people talk about orbs and products of the digital camera, a myriad of explanations for orbs. Well, people were picking up orbs long before they had digital cameras, but obviously the cost of processing a 12 or 32 frame film was expensive. But we've seen them, we've actually seen them with our own eyes, haven't we? Again, I don't know what they are, but we've seen them, so we spent a lot of time down there. Without doubt, one of the most interesting things we've come across was, you probably won't have heard a guy called Ronnie Dugdale, but he spent a lot of time down in that neck of the woods, if you'll excuse the pun. And he's a market gardener, and he was approached by a lady with an American accent that said, look, I was there the day after it happened, and I picked up some metal. Well, she went off without telling her name, and we had the metal analysed. The metal was sent to a guy called Nick Wrighty in the States, 52 years old. Sadly, Nick died of cancer, and the circumstances of his death concern me. because of information I received from his colleague, but I can't further that with his wife. I'm on Facebook friends with his wife. I never asked her about that, but something strange did happen to him, and he passed away. But he did quite a lot of tests on it, and he's done tests with the Roswell metal, and his findings were particularly of significance because he said that it was similar to some metal that was dropped from a UFO in Ohio. Now, I know the guy that witnessed that is an ex-Vietnam veteran. That's who I've been talking with over the past few years. So what he saw was a blank-shaped object, and it dropped this stuff. And if you want to show it, send pass that round, the metal. Okay, so we've got right. What's next then? Because let's talk about the Welsh stuff. I don't want Emily to give me turn off. Right. Can you stick some more? Oh, that's something. Sorry, that's something I took about 2 years ago above in Alfchurch, Worcestershire. Who knows? Could be a. I mean, what do you think it is? It could be a bag, kite. I don't know what it is. But while I'm here, having looked at probably thousands, tens of thousands of sightings, predominantly, you cannot remove the fact that so many of them involved three separate objects, which are often referred to as triangular. You get the three globes set at equilateral distance from each other. The Margaret Fry case is identical to that. The Flight Lieutenant Saladin, what he saw is very similar to that. And so many other sightings. But these three globes have got the propensity to move away under their own steam and then return. So for me, it's about the three. It's about the magic three, the three globes. And of course, we go back to the days of Adamski. And for years I wondered about Adamski. I thought, was he a fraud or not? I mean, I don't know, but what he described is identical to what Margaret Fry described and what so many of them described, so I don't know. Next. Right, that's an illustration. For me, that summarises the time. Bloody hell, right. Sorry, I forgot to swear. I shouldn't swear in front of an audience. Because what time have I got to?
It doesn't matter if you go over a bit.
No, I'll go over a little bit because I want to get over most of it. Right. Let's sling through now, fast. Right, please. Can we go? Right, that's Holt. Faster. Right, that's Charles Holt and his wife. Faster. Charles Holt with the book. Charles Holt with the book. Rendlesham, see the figure at the back? Who knows? Simulcray?
What, the face of the truth?
Yeah, and then... Okay, thank you. Forget the dog. Incredibly, that dog. That's Mr. Burrell. He saw a sighting in RAF Church, Lawford, Rugby, Staffordshire, 41. Go on, next. I think that's his painting of the RAF base. Right, that's what he saw. They told him to shut up. Just stick this through that. That's Jesse Rosenberg. Okay.
This was sound.
Oh, hang on.
Jesse's just showing volume on the water skies with the illustration. Would that be why the Gavin Gibbons, when he did the illustration?
Start the video again.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Odd.
Broader than that. Right, Jesse's just showing volume on the water skies with the
And the
illustration.
face is a slim either side.
A lot slimmer.
Beautiful.
Would that be why the Gavin Gibbons, when he did the illustration,
I think it was a UFO News or something, that was a lot thinner in the face.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Sorry about that, Jesse.
So we're, Dawn's interrupting
That's
with a
right.
cup of tea. Come on then, Dawn. Flying saucers.
But a few minutes later, we saw it circle the house 3 times before it shot up, was like a rocket against the blue, the dark sky. Quite true.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for that then. It's, what's the next one? Because we've got Pauline and Billy Coombs to do, yeah. That's Margaret Fry. That's what they saw, the kids saw at Beedon Wells School, 55 July. That's Margaret and Dawn. Margaret at the junction where it happened, bit of lipstick. Okay. Go on. No, don't bother playing it. We're going to do the Welsh bit. Right, that's what she's doing. Go on. No, don't bother playing that. That's what was seen in 78 around Bexley Heath, Kent. That's Margaret's book. Another Margaret's book. That's the marks that Rodney Maynard had the day after his sighting. That's Alan Hilton, now departed. That's Rodney. Go on. That's what Rodney Maynard saw. And in fact, I think Tim Good was describing it on a radio show in London, and Tim made a dreadful mistake because they said to him, "What did it look like?" So he said, "Well, it looked like a nipple on top." So the guy burst out laughing and said, "Well, you see plenty of them round there on the evenings." I thought, God, why do they do it, you know? But most people describe it as a cupola. But go on, next. Who's that? Can't remember. Oh, that's the guy from 67, the one that saw the UFO of South Wales. Go on. 67. That's Mayor Jeffrey, and they had a sighting over Paris Mountain, Wales, in 1977. We went to interview her, lovely ladies. Okay. Right, that was McCunliffe in South Wales, is it, John? Okay. Right. That was the artist's impression of what was seen over the mountain. And that was another artist's impression of what the boy said that he saw at McCunliffe. We didn't use that one, we didn't like it very much. That's Margaret Webb, lady that passed away a couple of years ago, very much involved. She had a spectacular, frightening experience at Brecon. A really frightening experience involving her and the daughter when these things came at them during the night. And she said, she told us personally, the only thing that helped was saying the Lord's Prayer, and that's the only thing that gave her protection. Okay, that was an early exhibition. That's her with her daughter Sandra. That's her with Ed Straker of UFO. That's revised volume 1. That was the funeral. Now that's, who's that? Anybody know who that is? Yes! You don't, don't you?
Yeah, I was with him shortly before he died.
Oh, were you?
Only a matter of 1 or 2 days. I went up to the hospital to visit a relative.
Yeah.
And my mother was there at the time. She said, "Did you know that Randall was in?" And that, sadly, that was 1 or 2 days before he died.
Oh, that's a shame. We actually went to see him, and we weren't there that long because he kept banging the table, with a Bible.
He's obviously taken ill.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think he's not too far off. I'm not particularly religious, but when he said it's demonic, and he said these things manifest, they are satanic, they are paranormal. You know, these are just labels that we put on these things. But he probably was right. Now, I can't remember the girl's name, Alison. She came up to Broadhaven around about that time and a frightening experience down on the beach. And she told Randall Joe and Pew about it. And I think it was him she contacted one night, and he's told her, he said, Alison, stop it. Don't have anything more to do with UFOs. I'm burning all my files. And so did Holiday. What was the name? The Holiday. Ted Holiday, was it? Because he did a lot.
F.W.
F.W.
Holiday. Co-wrote it.
That's right, yeah. And so, but who knows though? I mean, I can tell you what Alison told me, that what Randall had told her. But go on, next.
By who Turnbull, was that?
Sorry?
The special report by who Turnbull?
Yeah. Next. Can you read that? Go on, Dawn, you do something. Can you read that from the back? Dear folks, thank you for your letter of October the 22nd, and my apologies for the delay in replying. However, I would like to make a few comments on what Hilary Evans has to say about findings referenced in our book, the fifth enigma. Evans, of course, see how he spelled is that right? Yeah. Has every right to air his own personal views regarding the UFO phenomenon, but from what I've gathered about his personal assessments of the whole ufological, he is well off the mark. He simply does not realise the Bible implications and warnings contained in the scriptures concerning the end time, when the controlling work of the Holy Spirit is gradually being withdrawn from our world, and the enemy is being permitted to do his worst in the reckoning of God's handiwork. This period, of course, which may last 100 years or more, will prove to be a terrible time for mankind as a whole, and only those people who have accepted Christ in their lives will be saved literally, since it has been given that man has only one lifetime in which he has to decide where he is going to spend eternity. It is up to all of us to take the advice given in the Bible, so we can regard Evans' comments as not being worth the paper they are written on, trivial, unknowledgeable, from the Christian point of view, and more in line with those of the enemy of all mankind. We wish you a happy Christmas and a Merry New Year. Sincerely yours. Okay, next. Right. Well, there's. Now there you are. Can you see that mark? Can you see the mark above there? Like the two little marks.
That's the church at the top.
I don't know what those just marks. I think they look like just like a UFO or two globes. But go on, next. Has it changed much? Not really.
There's something above the wire. It's pretty much the same.
Because you know what's coming. Go on. Go on.
I told you I did rubbish trees.
Upside down. How old was you?
The green at the bottom, if I remember rightly, was supposed to signify bushes at the bottom of the trees. Right? It's not upside down trees, but I still can't draw trees.
Next. Sorry, because you got people. Okay.
Now that was the one that I actually said up at the top of the playground that was more representative of what we actually saw. However, if you could think of it a little bit more elongated out and flattened, that is nearer to the truth.
Right. And there's lines on top.
No face though. No face. No face.
place, so that seems to be a bit of a theme, that does. You was talking about earlier on.
Okay. I think that's the Paul Glover. But there was a heck of a lot of mail that went to that school. I mean, do we have access to the school?
Yeah, the scrapbook still exists.
Yes,
I
yes.
saw it last night. They
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Right.
they tidied it up a bit.
Oh, right, okay. Because I think if I remember rightly,
Use the microphone, Joe.
sorry.
A lot of the kids then were asked to draw what they thought that you and the other kids had seen. Does that make sense? Because
I mean, I remember it being done in strict exam conditions.
oh yeah,
where we were all told to go
but
on.
I'm sure there was a lot of other images drawn by other kids that actually weren't part of the 14.
Quite possibly that was at a later date because
It's at a later date.
I know there are pictures over there that are not contemporary with the time that we saw the UFO, which I believe have been done by following years post pupils, possibly discussing the subject amongst themselves and then going off and drawing things.
Right. I think that was one of the, if you like, not the original one.
No, that's not.
No,
That name certainly doesn't ring a bell with me.
All those brown things having fun.
Yeah, John. Don't sit there, mate.
Yeah, I'll just stay on the shower for a week. Yeah, that was one of the
John. On the back of these pictures, you can see the burned area to the back of the Fort Haven Hotel. I was saying earlier, when we went there, we spoke to Francine, and my image, I don't know what Dawn's is, but as we went up to the hotel, I saw Hayden with his hand in the chicken hutch, obviously getting some chicken's eggs out. So I just remember that so well. And then I met Rosa, who didn't speak much English, and she put us in touch with Francine. And of course, Rosa Granville passed away on the 2nd of February 2012, and maybe she hoped to make it to the 4th. I don't know, but I personally think that ladies like her, Pauline and her husband Billy, and so many others, Josephine Hewison, and I think they're very courageous, and I salute David for coming forward and holding the light on all of this stuff, because it does take courage, and so many people have turned round and said, I wish to God I never reported that experience, because it does change your life, doesn't it?
I think what helped me more than some of the other children who were involved was I didn't end up going into a reputable job or vocation. I didn't have to rely on keeping my silence in order not to lose my job or be the public. So it was a lot easier for the children to point everybody in my direction for a comment. Let me suffer the slings and arrows.
Yeah. Go on. Well, can we get that Pauline Billicom's video, please? If anybody wants to take any photographs of the original illustrations here, done by the kids, which is the first time they've actually seen light for 40 years. If they want to, you're welcome to.
Yeah. After John finishes in about 5 minutes, we're going to have a tea break. So that's the time we could come up and see the original drawing.
John? He's a good lad, is that John, pal? No, that's the audio. With the audios that were done with Pauline Coombs, from what I remember, she talked specifically about the pig that was mutilated at the farm. She also talked about the figure that appeared at the window, and also she complained that during one of those experiences, she actually says on tape, she woke up and felt like there was a needle going into her arm and lost consciousness. She still has the marks on her arm. And again, we've seen them so many times with people, but there should be, try the Welsh images, there should be, I'd like you to see Pauline and Billy. Does anybody know what's happened to the Coombs? Are they still about?
The last I heard, they'd moved to another part of the county, still pretty close, but they were keeping well out of the public eye. I think they suffered more ridicule and humiliation than anybody else, purely because of the details concerning their experiences.
But if I remember rightly, before they moved to Ribston, because when we went to Ribston ourselves, I don't know where that is, it should be. Oh yeah, no, chuck the pictures up so people can see 127. There should be a video clip. That's them when we went in 2006. But I'm pretty sure before they lived at Ribston, didn't they have? They lived in a caravan.
Yeah.
And didn't she report seeing all sorts of strange things in the caravan window?
I think Pauline had.
She was attracted to that.
It was almost as if Pauline was a conduit for what was happening at times.
Usual situations, isn't it, rather than Billy. Go on, there should be a clip of film. It's not very good, but that's the marks. But when we went to Ribston, we had a problem with the battery on the car, and after the battery was sorted, Ribston, it was Fort Haven, and that's it there. It's only a very short one, so you can see them. And
that's good, because he wanted to confirm that.
He stopped at the farm with us.
Yeah.
He said to me, and he said, but if I put in that, he did say something about putting in something, and I said, no. Before you start, anything that's this is how we saw it, and that's why I'd like it through it.
yeah, I was saying about the Fort Haven Hotel. When we came out, we messed about in the car, and a couple came out towards us, very agitated, and we said, "You're all right?" And they said, "Well, we just had a terrible experience staying here overnight." So I said, "Well, what does it entail?" And we started talking, and we told them we were interested in this, and they both said, "Well, we're too upset to tell you. It was a very frightening experience, but we will get back to you." And never did. So there's something about the Fort Haven Hotel, or something perhaps that lurks inside there. I don't know, but they're probably not the only ones. I suppose time's up. Is it Independence Day? Just stick to a few more images, please.
Take 5 minutes off the TV.
Okay, all right. Let's run over, John. Pauline Hewison. Pauline again. We tried to track her down, didn't we? That's what she saw. Yeah, anyway. I mean, I was hoping to actually read from the volume 6, because I have interviews with Pauline and Billy, Rosa, Francine,
the time's defeated us. I'm afraid that's how it goes, you know. But I'm going to I've said to Elwyn that Emily Elwyn. I've said to you I'm a British gringo, you know. Emily, I've said what we're hoping to do this year is revise volume 6, but make it into colour, which is what I've always wanted to put the kids' illustrations in colour in the book, so that's what we're going to do. Hopefully Davis can help us, and this charming lady there, Emily. Steve, the store. You're ex-cop, are you?
Yes.
Which floor? Oh, traffic! Oh my God, that frightens me straight. Yeah.
Not unless you're killed in a road accident, that's all I dealt with.
Yeah, that's all right then. Okay, we just spend through. I mean, is there anybody here that has actually had any experience of that here? Maybe at the back.
We have actually identified.
You've identified her,
right? Told us, so we can have a chat with them.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah. Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a burden on the way. But you know, just don't forget Ribbleston Farm. There's nobody from Ribbleston Farm here, is there today? No.
Spring's just gone up there.
Sorry?
Neil Spring and his friends just gone up there.
Right.
Yeah, they're coming back in a minute.
Because when we went there, I think that the things were still happening then, as they're probably still happening now. So, you know, maybe, I don't know. But when we went there was some
How long ago?
interesting, 2006. So I don't know whether the people have changed or not, I don't know.
Didn't Neil Spring say it's up the same?
Or is that Fort Hayward?
Oh, right. That's just by it.
By oath. I suppose I should conclude and say that, you know, over the years I've seen that the way in which the media have approached the release of documents by the MOD into the public sector, and it's always been clear to me that you've always got quite a lot of press interest when the MOD release these files, or as it is now to the Public Records Office. And, you know, the thing is, they only release what they want to release. What they do release are low-grade reports, and bearing in mind that we have something like, I don't know, 20,000 sightings and experiences, very, very few of them have ever been released. And you have the likes of Patrick Moore that said they're nonsense. He even wrote to us saying UFOs are nonsense. And I'll rest my case and say that Professor Brian Cox has said openly on the BBC in response to a question to him about UFOs, and he says they're all a load of B ending with S. And actually that word is not as offensive as it sounds, but for me the evidence is overwhelming and you can't refute it. Whether or not they're ever going to tell us what's going on, I don't know. I doubt it. Yeah. So I hope I haven't confused you too much. I usually do, you know, because there's so much stuff in there.
Yeah. You've got so much information in your box that It's too much there for one presentation.
Well, there is, yeah. I mean, what I could have done is read out the interview from the Welsh, the Welsh triangle, if you like, and not from the book. No, I'm talking about from the area. But the main thing to remember is that yes, there were some fascinating things took place here, and I still remember. But what about the other 100, 200, 500,000 other sightings involving similar things seen all over the world? And of course, we are still spoon-fed that they don't exist, but they bloody well do, don't they? Sorry.